guys, what is up? It's Ella. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Today I'm going to be going over everything you should know before you go to Cedar Point. We'll be covering everything from where to stay, how to get there, loose article policies, and so much more. So this is truly a complete guide with everything you'll need to know. Without further ado, let's get started. First, let's talk about where Cedar Point is located and how to get there. Cedar Point is located in Sandusky, Ohio, which is in between Toledo and Cleveland, about 60 miles away from each. There is an Amtrak train that goes to Sandusky, but it runs on a very limited schedule and with weird hours, and it does not go directly to the park, so if you take a train, you will have to figure out how to get from the station to Cedar Point. I would highly recommend traveling by car if at all possible, mostly for the reason that as of now, you physically cannot get to the park without a car unless you have a boat parked in the marina. Cedar Point is located on a peninsula, and the only way to get over there is by the causeway. And as of now, the causeway does not permit foot or bicycle traffic, so the only way to physically get to the park is by car. There is talk of redoing the causeway to make it more pedestrian friendly and possibly even adding some ferry boats to shuttle guests to the park, but as of 2022, when this video is being filmed, the only way to get across the causeway is by a vehicle. As far as your stay in Sandusky, there is a lot of different lodging options you have to choose from, but the biggest question to ask yourself when choosing where to stay is if you want to stay on the point or not. Cedar Point owns lodging both on and off the peninsula, and there's a lot of independently owned off-point lodging as well. For on-point lodging, there's of course Hotel Breakers, which sits right on the beach. Cedar Point also has a campground and cabins on the point as well. Now these options are of course going to cost more, but the advantage of staying here is that you're right next to the park and the beach. If you're looking to go all out, go for it and stay on point. But if you're a bit more budget conscious like me, I would personally recommend staying off point. Now, staying at Cedar Point property will also grant you early entry into the park, so if you still want those benefits but don't mind staying off point, I would recommend staying at Cedar Point Express Hotel, which is located right off the causeway. It's not as convenient or luxurious as Hotel Breakers, but you'll probably be spending most of your time in the park anyways, so in my opinion, it's not really worth splurging on a fancy hotel if you're only going there to sleep anyways. Cedar Point also owns Castaway Bay, an off-point hotel with an indoor water park, and they also have Sawmill Creek, which is their new golf club resort. Because these places have extra amenities, they will be more expensive even though they're still off-point. So if you're just looking for a place to crash, I would still recommend the Express Hotel. And of course, there's a lot of other options in the city of Sandusky if you're looking to save even more money. There's a KOA campground if you're into camping, or there's plenty of other hotels around the city as well. There's a Holiday Inn and a Super 8, both of which are located right off the causeway, so they're pretty convenient. And there's also a Kalahari and a Great Wolf Lodge water park resort in Sandusky if you want some extra water park time for your trip. Next up is another super important consideration about your trip to Cedar Point, which is what time of year you should go for your visit. Cedar Point is a busy park, and if you go at the wrong time, you're going to run into some massive lines and be really limited in what you can actually ride and get done. The biggest piece of advice I have is to go on a weekday if possible. Weekdays are by far much less crowded than weekends, especially during less peak times in the season. The worst times to go are going to be any weekend, especially during Halloween weekends. If you're trying to ride as many rides as you can, do not go on Halloween weekends at all. Depending on staffing, the park might also close some rides during Halloween weekends too, so it's not a good time to go if it's your first visit to Cedar Point. Opening weekend, especially opening day, is a rough time to go as well. Staffing is still pretty limited at this point because colleges haven't gotten out yet, and the crowds are just huge, so you can't really get as much done as you would like to. The best times to go are going to be weekdays in late May, early June, or the last 2 weeks in August. Rainy days are also a great time to go, which is a little bit harder to predict, but rides can run in the rain, but with the rain you might run into some downtime. It's difficult to predict and it's different for every ride, but If you go during the rain, there will be virtually no lines. Another big question people have about Cedar Point is how many days that they should stay. Personally, I would say your best bet is to have 2 full days in the park in case of bad weather or mechanical delays. Cedar Point is such a huge park, and having 2 days to get everything done will really help you take your time and just enjoy the park, where trying to cram everything into one day can honestly be more stressful than it is fun. If you're planning on going to the beach or the water park as well, you'll definitely want to have at least 2 days, possibly even 3 if you really want to do everything. We'll get more into the beach and the water park later, but in general, I would say plan on at least 2 days, especially if it's your first visit. Next, let's talk about some of the few different ticketing options that Cedar Point offers. I'm just going to gloss over them here since you can head over to the website if you really want more in-depth information, which I will link below. Like with most theme parks, the tickets are going to be cheaper if you buy them online versus at the gate when you arrive, so I would definitely recommend to buy your tickets in advance. Cedar Point has single-day tickets for $45 online as of April 2022 when I do the research for this video, and they also offer single-day ticket bundles that include a single-day dining plan and parking. Cedar Point also has a few different season pass options. New for 2022 is the $99 summer pass, which includes unlimited admission and parking for the summer season, but does not include Cedar Point Shores admission and some of the other season pass perks. For $135, the Gold Pass gets you admission for the whole season, season parking, and some of the other perks that I'm not going to go over in details for the sake of time, but if you want admission to Halloween weekends, this is the pass to get. For the $230 Platinum Pass, it basically gets you all the benefits of a Gold Pass, but with admission to all the Cedar Fair parks in the chain. There are also military discounts and group discounts available as well. Now, along with all the different pass options, Cedar Point offers a ton of pass add-ons, and for first-time visitors, it can be really difficult to decide which ones are actually worth the money, and it kind of comes down to your personal preferences. Like with the last section, I'm not going to go totally in detail on these because there's just so much information, and it can all be found on the park's website. And of course, there's the Skip the Line Pass, known as the Fastlane, and we'll cover that in this section as well. First, let's start with the dining passes. For pass holders, the all-season dining plan runs you about $99 and will get you lunch and dinner every visit, which is a really good deal if you come to the park often. There's also dining plans for single-day ticket holders as well. The $31 all-day dining plan will get you a meal at participating restaurants every 90 minutes. So if you have a few people in your group, you can really take advantage of this and save a lot of money, especially if you split it up between different people. For $45, you can get the premium single-day dining plan, which is pretty much the same as the other daily plan, except you can get drinks every 15 minutes. If you really want to save money on food, the best solution is just to bring your own food and leave it in your car, exit the park to eat it, and then come back in. But if you're planning on eating park food anyways, the dining plan can be a way to go for convenience. Along with the food plans are their drink plans. Cedar Point has 2 drink plan options, one that uses paper cups and one with sports bottles. You can get these either for a season pass or a single day ticket for $35 or $15 respectively. Personally, I would just save your money and drink water all day, but if you really want those soft drinks, I would say go with the paper cup option over the sports bottle, mainly because the loose article policy at this park is honestly one of the worst ones I've ever seen. Several of the major roller coasters will require you to put your sports bottle in a locker before getting in line, which will cost even more money, but we'll get more into loose articles later. Even though the paper cup plan is more wasteful for the environment, it is a lot more convenient and will save you money with lockers. Cedar Point also offers a Fun Picks add-on in which you can save unlimited digital ride photos. For a season pass, it will be $65 for an all-season Fun Picks, or for single-day ticket holders, it is $35. If this is something that's important to you, go for it, but if not, you can save a little money and skip out on this add-on. And of course, the most infamous of all of the add-ons, Fastlane. Fastlane is the park's Skip the Line Pass, and it comes in 2 different forms, Fastlane and Fastlane Plus. The difference is that Fastlane Plus allows you to skip the line on 4 extra roller coasters. Valraven, Millennium Force, Maverick, and Steel Vengeance as of 2022. In the past, Top Thrill Dragster was included instead of Valraven, but since Dragster will not be opening in the 2022 season, they swapped it for the next most popular ride in the park. If you're choosing between Fastlane or Fastlane Plus, I would just go with Plus if you're a roller coaster fan, but if you're not planning on going on those 4 rides, I would just skip it and get the regular Fastlane. If you have kids, make sure to measure them before getting Fastlane Plus. Millennium Force has a 48-inch height requirement, but Maverick, Steel Vengeance have 52-inch height requirement and Valraven's is 54. So if your kid is in between those heights, it might not be worth it to get Fastlane Plus if they can't ride all of the rides it includes. A lot of people wonder if you really need Fastlane to get on all of the rides. If you only have one day in the park, I would definitely recommend getting Fastlane or Fastlane Plus, especially if you don't know if you're going to come back to the park anytime soon. If you're going on a more crowded day, like a Saturday or during Halloween weekends, you won't get a ton of rides in without Fastlane, but do keep in mind that Cedar Point changes the price of Fastlane and Fastlane Plus based on attendance, so it'll be more expensive on more crowded days. If you're going during a less crowded time, especially if you have 2 days in the park, you honestly don't need it in my opinion, but if you have less time or if you're going on a busy day, I would recommend getting Fastlane. If all that talk about dining plans made you hungry, don't worry, because next we're going to talk about food. Cedar Point is one of the better theme parks when it comes to food, in my opinion. Of course, you'll be able to find your classics like pizza and hot dogs, but there's a lot of other specialty restaurants that have foods that you wouldn't normally see in a theme park. Personally, my favorite restaurant is Hugo's right in the front of the park, which specializes in Italian food. Another one of my favorites is the Mac Shack, where you can create your own customized mac and cheese bowl. Some other fan favorites are Backbeat Barbecue towards the back of the park, which of course is known for its barbecue, and then there's Wild Turnip, which is also in the back of the park, and this is the best place to go for vegan or vegetarian meals. If you're looking for a chain restaurant, Cedar Point has a Starbucks, Panda Express, and a Chick-fil-A, but they do have limited menus and will be much more expensive than they would be outside of the park. One place that I would definitely recommend checking out, especially if you're not from Ohio, is Toft's near the front of the park. This is some of the best ice cream you will ever eat in your whole life. Toft's also has 2 other locations in Sandusky, which will have more flavors and better ice cream in my opinion. So if you have time, I would recommend going to one of those other locations, but if not, check out the one in the park. And now for the main attraction, the rides. There's a lot of ground to cover here, but I'll do my best to make sure that I don't miss anything. Obviously, Cedar Point is known for their roller coasters, but we're going to start out by talking about the kids areas first. Cedar Point has 3 different kids areas: Kitty Kingdom, Planet Snoopy, and Camp Snoopy. Kitty Kingdom is the best spot if you have really little kids. Most of the rides here just go around in a circle, and they don't have super strict height requirements. Kids just have to be able to walk and sit up by themselves in order to ride. For most of these rides, adults cannot ride with kids, so if you want to ride alongside your kiddos, head to the other side of the arcade and go to Planet Snoopy. Here, you'll find more rides with height requirements, however, but you will have more chances to ride alongside your kids. Finally, there's Camp Snoopy in the back of the park, and this is where you'll find the kiddie roller coasters. It has a lot of the same rides as Planet Snoopy, but there's a few different ones here and there. Cedar Point also has a decent collection of flat rides, many of which are suitable for families to enjoy together. One that I would definitely recommend checking out is Cedar Downs, which is a really unique carousel and one of 2 of that type of ride still standing. The Sky Ride is pretty cool too, and it gives you some great views of the main midway and provides some transportation as well. There's also Snake River Expedition, which is a boat ride with actors and animatronics that tells a story. It's kind of similar to Jungle Cruise at Disneyland, but don't go into it expecting Disney quality or you will be disappointed. Cedar Point also has a lot of classic flat rides that you'd expect to see at other theme parks like a Scrambler and bumper cars and that sort of thing. If there's one flat ride I would recommend skipping, it's Super Himalaya. I've been on a few different Himalayas or Music Express rides, and for some reason, this is the worst one I've ever been on. Don't go out of your way to ride it, unless I guess you want to see how bad it really is. It is just slower than all of the other Himalayas that I've been on. And finally, let's get into the roller coasters. I already mentioned the 2 kiddie coasters in Camp Snoopy, but if you're looking for more kid-friendly roller coasters, check out Blue Streak, Cedar Creek Mine Ride, and Iron Dragon. Corkscrew and Gemini also have lower height requirements, but might be a little scarier for the younger kids. From there, Millennium Force and Magnum XL 200 also have lower height requirements, although these are much more intense than the previously mentioned coasters. The rest are your big high thrill rides with height requirements of 52 or 54 inches. These coasters are Raptor, Valraven, Gatekeeper, Rougarou, Top Thrill Dragster, Maverick, and Steel Vengeance. Personally, I find the most intense coasters to be Dragster, Maverick, Raptor, Magnum, and Steel Vengeance. So if you're not into strong forces, I would say stay away from those rides. Gatekeeper can also be a little more intense, but not quite as much as these other ones. Valraven and Millennium Force are not quite as forceful, but still pack in a thrilling ride, so there's some good options if you want thrills but are worried about the intensity. The only other thrill coaster I've yet to mention is Rougarou, which isn't too intense, but it does bang you around a little bit. If you have to skip out on one of the thrill coasters, I would recommend skipping Rougarou. It's not really worth more than a 20 or 30 minute wait in my opinion. Speaking of wait times, let's talk about which rides get the longest lines. Valraven is one of the coasters that almost always has a 45-minute wait, so expect to do some waiting for that one. Maverick also consistently has a longer line, usually around an hour-long wait, and this one is more prone to breaking down, so I would try to hit this one earlier in the day if possible. Its neighbor, Steel Vengeance, is arguably the most popular ride in the park, and one of the best roller coasters in the world, so it gets pretty long lines as well, but I found that this one moves a little bit faster than some of the others. Finally, there's Top Thrill Dragster, which is one of the most finicky rides in the park and is extremely prone to mechanical issues. Now, if you're watching this video when it's uploaded in 2022, Dragster won't be opening at all this year, and it's kind of uncertain at this point if the park will even keep the ride around for the future. I'm not going to open that can of worms right now, but when Dragster is open, this is another one you can expect a longer line from, and be prepared for possible mechanical issues while you're waiting in line. There's so much to cover with rides, and I'm sure there's a few things I missed, so if you have any questions about rides that I did not answer in this video, please leave me a comment and I'll try to get back to as many people as I can. I will get around to talking about the loose article policy later in this video, but for now I'm going to move on to some of the other things to do at the point. If you are not into rides, there is a few other things that you can do at Cedar Point to stay busy. We'll start off with the previously mentioned water park, which, depending on your park ticket, might require separate admission to enter. I haven't spent any time in the water park myself, but it has a lot of slide complexes, a lazy river, some kids' play structures, and even a swim-up bar, so there's plenty to do there. It does close earlier than the theme park, so you can spend an afternoon in the water park, but you'll have to make other plans for the evening. Continuing with the water fun is the Cedar Point Beach, located on the right side of the park. Lake Erie is pretty warm and shallow, so you can go out pretty far into the water, but I have to say, this is one of the nastier beaches that I've been to. It's not uncommon to find dead fish or seaweed washed up on the beach, and there's a ton of seagulls everywhere. Personally, I would recommend going to another beach alongside Lake Erie if you really want to swim in the lake, but it is convenient to have one right there on the point. If you have time, walk down by Magnum XL 200 for some really cool views of that ride and of the park. Along with the beach, there's also a rental shack where you can rent jet skis, kayaks, or even go parasailing, so that's another option if you want to spend some time on the lake. Cedar Point also has a decent amount of shops, particularly along the Frontier Trail section of the park, where you can find unique crafts and merchandise. Cedar Point has one of the best gift shop collections around, and there's a lot of cool items related to the rides and the park in general. Some of the most popular gift shops are Point Plaza right in the front of the park and Pagoda in the middle of the park. And there's a lot of rides that exit into gift shops if you're looking for ride-specific merchandise. There's also a decent amount of shows around Cedar Point as well, mostly song and dance type of shows. There's a stage on the left side of the park near Millennium Force where most of the shows are held, but you also might find some musicians in other places around the park, often near restaurants. The show schedule changes from year to year, so check online, on the app, or keep an eye out when in the park for show information. There's also a section of the park called Forbidden Frontier, which is located on the island off Frontier Trail. It's kind of a walk to get back there, but once you do get back there, there's actors walking around that you can interact with. But I feel like most people go for the big playground structure there, and if you have kids, this could be a good place to break up the day if they're sick of waiting in lines. Personally, when I went to Forbidden Frontier, I wasn't too impressed, but if you have kids, it might be fun. Finally, we're going to cover a few other things that you should know, but don't really fit into the other sections or would just make the other sections of this video way too long. First off, Cedar Point is cashless. You can get a card to load cash onto, but if you're a parent sending kids or teenagers to the park on their own, be aware that you can't just send them with a $20 bill like you used to. They'll have to put that cash onto a card now. While visiting Cedar Point, you will also want to look out for the birds and the bugs. Since it's right alongside the beach and the lake, Cedar Point has a lot of nasty birds, the most notorious being red-winged blackbirds and seagulls. The seagulls might come for your food or unload onto you, but the redwings will actually attack. There's one that likes to hang outside of Valraven's exit that's really nasty, and I've seen him attack multiple people, and I myself has also been attacked by this bird. So watch out for him if you're near Valraven's exit. Cedar Point also has a ton of bugs due to the fact that it's right next to a lake, but the worst of the bunch are muffleheads and mayflies. Muffleheads are really annoying, whereas the mayflies don't really bother people, but they're big, ugly, and everywhere. You might want to use some bug spray before heading into this park. If you're riding Millennium Force in the front row at nighttime, expect to get some bugs on your face when you're coming off the ride. This is kind of true for most of the rides at Cedar Point, but especially Millennium Force in the front row has an issue with bugs. Another thing that comes along with the lakeside location is very unpredictable weather. Even on days when they're not reporting rain or storms, sometimes rain can just come out of nowhere. It's a good idea to have a poncho in your car or readily available, maybe in a pocket, in case of unpredictable rain. Many of the rides here can run in the rain, but if there's lightning within a certain distance from the park, all rides will have to close. And you'll find that the taller rides, like roller coasters, are usually the first ones to close at the sight of bad weather. And I saved the best for last. Now we are going to talk about one of the most important things to know when visiting Cedar Point, which is the loose article policies. Cedar Point has one of the most tedious loose article policies of any theme park I've ever been to, so listen up because this is going to be a game changer for your day at the park. On some of the major roller coasters, you are not allowed to bring anything in line with you that you are not taking on the ride with you or throwing away before you go on the ride. This means no backpacks, large bags, souvenir cups, stuffed animals, basketballs, souvenirs, or anything else that is not going on the ride with you. These items will have to go in a locker, which you do have to pay for. These lockers are $2 for 2 hours, but there's also an all-day rental option where you can move your items between different locker locations. The roller coasters that have this policy include Gatekeeper, Valraven, Millennium Force, Top Thrill Dragster, Magnum XL 200, Rougarou, and Steel Vengeance. Steel Vengeance is the weirdo of this group, where you can only bring things into line that fit into your pockets. That means no fanny packs, small bags, or other small items that you may be able to bring in line for other rides. Before you get to the station, you have to put any items in your pockets in a free double-sided locker that you can access after the ride. Even if you have zipper pockets, button pockets, or Velcro pockets, you will have to empty them before boarding. If you've been to Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, you may recognize this locker system from rides like Velocicoaster, where you are able to access it before and after the ride from different sides. If you wear a hat to the park, you will be asked to take it off on some of the more intense rides, and ride operators will ask you to either put it down your shirt or sit on it for the rides that do not have bins on the platform. Glasses are permitted to be worn on most rides. Some of the rides will require you to have an athletic strap in order to wear your glasses on the rides, or you will be instructed to take them off before the ride. Cedar Point is also very strict with their no phones on rides policy, especially on roller coasters. They recently made this policy even stricter, and now if you are caught with your phone out on a ride, security will be called and you will be removed from the park without a refund. If you lose something on a ride and the crew is able to access that area during operations, they might be able to retrieve it for you during operations, but if it does fall into a low zone or a restricted area, you will have to wait till the end of the night to retrieve your item. I highly recommend wearing clothing that has zipper pockets on it so you can secure your smaller items, and I would not bring a backpack if at all possible to the park. I think that just about covers it for this video here on Cedar Point. Let me know if there's anything I missed in the comments below. If you have any questions, I will do my best to get back to as many questions as I can. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more theme park and travel content like this. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again. Bye!